There are so many interesting, horrifying, or downright weird things in this big world of ours.
Each week, we'll bring you a new true crime story that has little to no coverage in English.
Let us do the translations so you don't have to.
Hello, I'm Victoria.
I am Petra.
And I'm Laura, and we're the podcast Translation Murder. Welcome back to this week. It is my turn once again, and we are staying in Finland because this is the second episode of a two-part series that I am talking about a familicide in Karkkila. And speaking of which, I just wanted to go over some terms because we were discussing this a bit last week about what's the difference between a familicide and family annihilation. And we were kind of discussing some cases as well in different countries and what's the difference and, you know, who does the most family murders or familicides. And so I just wanted to, I know some people like fucking hate Wikipedia, but I mean, technically it's changed since I was a child because I mean, in book reports and stuff, they cautioned us against Wikipedia, but hell, I use it for my work, so I'm going to use it now. So according to Wikipedia, familicide is a type of murder or murder-suicide in which an individual kills multiple close family members in quick succession, most often children, spouses, siblings, or parents. So basically, that's the case that we have now is a familicide, so not family annihilation per se. So basically, with family annihilations, all the members of the family are killed. And yeah, so that's kind of the difference between them as far as I saw. Do you guys have any difference in opinion, or I mean, maybe not opinion, but difference in cases? Because we also brought up some stuff last time we were talking.
I think it's just good that you clarified this and actually checked because I wasn't sure which term is correct or which is the exact definition of which term.
Yeah. Because like as far as I don't know, my anthropology classes and stuff like the, patricide and matricide and all this stuff, I just assumed that it was familicide. So I'm glad I was correct in that regard. And so that's why I kind of named these the familicide and Karkkila. Because but I just didn't know that there was also a difference between family annihilation and familicide. So that was actually quite new to me during this.
I mean, it kind of makes
series.
sense that with annihilation, everyone dies, at least in the core family, I guess.
Yeah. And also there was this point that in half of, or like according to Wikipedia, there's some sources there that say that half of the cases the killer lastly kills themselves in a murder-suicide. So if only the parents are killed, then the case may be referred to as parricide. So that's also a distinction in itself too. So you might have some children who take it out on their parents, for instance, and yeah, that would only be parricide. So
Yeah, and I think it's kind of phenomena in the societies where you have to take care of your parents. For example, in Japan, that you basically kill your parents to get rid. Like, it's not necessarily hatred, but more like, okay, they're so old, they're suffering, nobody's like, this is not nice, I will let them die type of cases. But I guess they are also included in that term, I would say.
I guess parricide is a type of familicide, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now that I also opened the Wikipedia article, I spotted this sentence that far fewer women commit familicide, and those who do usually have different reasons, including perceived or imagined loss of custody of children. So I don't know, there's no direct reference to this, and still it's Wikipedia, but yeah, interesting. And I didn't actually find any statistics about Hungarian cases or the gender distribution in the Hungarian cases, but I just found it interesting last time that it came up that, like, did you say, Laura, that in Finland there were more
Mm.
women committing these kind of cases?
Yes. Yeah, at least in the case of, certain types of cases, but yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, when the kid is the victim.
yeah, exactly, when the
Yeah.
child is the victim. And I mean, that was technically, I mean, my first case, the burning in Eckerö, the first episode that we did, it's kind of almost the instance too, because the wife was also like, my ex-husband will not have my child, so then therefore
Mhm.
she killed
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ex-spouse in order to
Mm.
take care, or like, take care custody of the child. So it's kind of the same. Even in that case, it was because of child custody issues. So is there anything else that anybody would like to add, or shall I move on?
Nothing to add at this point.
Go
Mhm.
ahead.
Okay. So yeah, just to recap, in October of 2005, Juha, so the ex of Sini, which is the mother in this story, the ex had filed an application for joint custody because he felt like Sini wasn't freely giving information to him about his kids, Jasmin and Junnu. So this is Harry's two younger siblings. So Harry isn't technically Juha's child by biological means, but he's his stepfather. So Sini contested Juha's custody and wanted sole custody for herself, and an increase in the child welfare payments from Juha. At the time, the house that Sini and the kids were living in went up for sale, or like they were wanting to put it up for sale. Basically, they were pressured to put it up for sale, and by Juha and Juha's family and whatnot. And this is the house that was rebuilt on the same plot of land in place of the first fire that happened in 2003. And basically, so Sini is, of course, being very pressured by Juha at this point. Lawyer
Sorry,
bills
can
are
I
yeah.
ask? So who owns the house?
So
Sini
as far as I understood it, Sini and Juha, technically, I think both of them,
together.
because of as far as I understood, and Juha's no longer in the picture, living at home. And I guess since it's probably easier for the kids and her to stay in the house than him also, like, yeah. So basically, so he wanted the house, just to settle all of the joint things in order to get the divorce and kind of clean slate, as far as I understood it. So the lawyer bills were surmounting, and the medical bills also, because she had been unemployed, she was on sick leave, she had had surgery before the first fire, and basically just a lot of stress on the outside because she had pressure to vacate the premises with her children and whatnot, and they just didn't have enough money basically to go around. So I also just wanted to point out that the results of this tragic event are of no one person's fault, and it just brings to mind this kind of saying that, I even like on My Favorite Murder, they say like see something, say something. So if one person had just spoken up about their fears or their doubts or their worries for Sini's mental health, then maybe none of this would have happened. And I'm not saying that it's the cause of like her family or whatever not speaking up or whatever, or her friends or something like that, but I just would urge people, like, if they think that something's wrong, the worst that can happen is, okay, a breakup of a friendship or some frayed family ties or something. But then in the end, no one will die. Like, no children will die. Yeah. And I know Petra brought this up last time that, it's in the Finnish society at least not to kind of speak up about things, don't cause any issues. There's always like, the jokes that go around with, your neighbors. If they have an issue with you, if you have an issue with your neighbors, you'll like leave a note underneath their door, like they just don't want to have any confrontation at all. And you can do this, contact social services and whatnot anonymously. And, you can do this stuff without having to, be found out by the person that you're reporting on. And it's always better to over-report than under-report in these
Yeah.
cases. So just wanted to say that I'm not blaming anybody, but this is how the case kind of unraveled. And yeah, like how I was reading the book, the Kun kukaan ei kuule, which is the book that I used for most of the sources for this episode in particular, that this is how it was kind of outlined to me. So just a forewarning. Sini, her parents lived in Helsinki, about 55 minutes away to the south by car, and they were aware of their daughter's difficult situation during her and her husband's separation, so her and Juha's separation. They thought that during the course of the marriage, Sini had changed, but not for the better. So they had noticed some things in their daughter that they were like, something's up. This isn't really normal. And they also knew of the financial difficulties that their daughter was dealing with, and that Sini could no longer kind of cover the day-to-day expenses her family needed. But like good parents, they tried to supplement her both financially and with bringing her food and groceries and stuff when she needed. So they were at least doing their part that they thought, to support their daughter who was having a difficult time. So Sini's mother was already under the impression that Sini and Juha had already planned on breaking up when the house caught fire in 2003. So there was already some kind of difficulties that the couple was facing, and there was already some frayed, relationships there, and yeah, just that the relationship had kind of run its course, and the couple had in itself, like during the time that they were together, which I'm not sure how many years they were together. I'm guessing, well, many years, because like Jasmin had to be born and she was 3 by the time in 2003, so I'm guessing at least 5 years or something like that is my guess. And it was also quite clear that Sini's parents didn't really like Juha because the way that they treated their daughter. So basically, from their account, Sini kind of complained and about Juha didn't really help with any household chores or getting the groceries. And maybe the most importantly, Juha had worsened the family's financial situation by kind of buying cars and like making bad car sale deals. So I guess I don't know what this was like in the book. It basically said like making bad car sale deals, but from what I understand, it could have been like flipping cars or buying cars and trying to sell them, And yeah, so if you're having a bunch of materials that are like in cars or houses or something, if it's not a bunch of like, liquid money out there, if you don't have it in cash in hand, it's not really going to help your situation. And of course, I don't know, my dad always used to say that the worst investment that you could ever make is cars because it just depreciates in value. So yeah, I mean, some people do make their living off of cars, but in my opinion, I also wouldn't be really comfortable with my partner dealing in cars. So
It wasn't his job, right? Like he wasn't a car dealer or anything like that.
no,
Maybe he
yeah,
was just always like upgrading his car and buying a newer one.
and that also will come into play later as well. So after the divorce, Sini's parents even thought that in some regards their daughter's situation worsened. So it kind of got bad during Juha's and her relationship, and then it then it got even shittier, for instance. And this mostly came from the pressure that Sini and the kids could no longer afford to stay in the house in Karkkila anymore. And basically that Juha and Juha's parents were basically pressuring Sini, like, just sell the fucking house, get out, take the money, whatever, move somewhere cheaper, blah, 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 So here's some dates if you want to write some stuff down, because like I have the timeline, but it might get a bit confusing. I'll try to kind of go back through and rename the dates and what day of the week they are. But okay, so the last time Sini's parents saw her was on Saturday, the 10th of December, 2005. And during this time, the mother noticed how restless Sini was, even though she tried to hide it. So basically, Sini had gone to her parents' place in Helsinki, is what I understood. And as Christmas Eve was approaching, so in Finland especially, I mean, in the States, we celebrate Christmas on the 25th, like on Christmas Day. But in Finland, you usually celebrate it on Christmas Eve, so the 24th. So just for people to know that.
Same in Hungary.
Yeah, basically all of Europe, except it's kind of like the metric system. I would say like US is the only one who doesn't celebrate it on Christmas Eve. But yeah. So yeah, as Christmas Eve was approaching quickly, Sini had her parents take her to the store to buy presents for the two youngest children, Jasmin and Junnu, and to buy some groceries for the household. So Sini's mom talked to her the next day over the phone on Friday, December 11th. And in the call, Sini had said that one of her German shepherds, so remember that Sini also raised German shepherds, or had like some dogs that she raised. I didn't mention the specific breed last time, but it's German Shepherd. So she had this
I
German
didn't
Shepherd.
remember this.
Yeah, me
Okay.
neither.
Well, okay. Yeah. All right. So she had about like 20 something dogs, I think, at some point, and some horses and stuff like that. So So that was like another probably financial issue being raised.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
gives lots of context because I was thinking like how expensive can it be to live in a house in Karkkila? Like okay,
Yeah, like
electricity,
horses
but
alone. Yeah,
yeah.
horses alone are fucking expensive. And then, of course, then puppies and dogs. And I mean, Victoria has a bit of reference with kittens, like being a foster parent for kittens. I
Yep.
mean, cats are
Vet
smaller, but
costs are
yet,
crazy. Yeah.
yes, yeah, exactly. So yeah, you can continue if you want to. Like, no, okay, yeah. But I know that it's quite a lot for vet visits, food, for medicine, for if the young ones aren't latching on, they need to feed them milk, and it's time, and it's like just crazy amounts of effort, and I mean, it's worth it, and you're doing quote unquote God's work, but yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we start to talk about horses. I think they must be like if a wet visit with a cat could be like thousands. I'd say it
Yeah.
could be like 10,000s with horses.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
they're
at least
super
luckily,
expensive.
the the county vets usually in these smaller towns are a bit cheaper, and they make
Okay,
like
yeah.
calls to the farms, which is a bit nicer. And yeah,
But
so
still, it's like a constant expense if she
yes,
always has like new dogs, new puppies,
Mm.
always some different kind of whatever illness that might come up. So it's not, a lot of cost and also constant effort that she needs to put
Mm.
into this and a lot of stress all the time.
Yeah,
yes,
also
and then on
gives
top of her own
context.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah, gives context to the fact that she was very tired of the husband not doing any chores. If she also has
Mhm.
the animal chores to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so basically, recapping again, Sini, she went on Saturday the 10th to visit her parents in Helsinki. And then on oh fuck, I actually put the wrong dates. So it would be Sunday. Oops, not Friday. Okay, so then talked to her the next day on Sunday, December 11th. And in the call, Sini had said that one of her German shepherds and puppies were being taken to a friend's place because she could no longer take care of them, on top of having to take care of Junnu. So it was unclear to the mother whether the dog and the puppies would be permanently staying at the friend's place or whether it was just like a temporary thing for the time being until, she could take care of Junnu. And basically the issue with Junnu, I think there was like colic, and that's what I covered in last episode, but I wonder if there was something a bit more serious going on with Junnu, because
Yeah,
colic isn't
because
really an
yeah,
issue
it's
that
not.
you go to the hospital
y-
for.
Yeah, it's more like we don't know. Baby cries. Let's call it colic, kind of thing.
Yeah. And apparently there was like multiple hospital stays. So I just don't know if there's more like, how do you say, like more severe gastrointestinal issues or something, or there was something a bit more serious with Junnu. So basically this is like one of the major causes, and like I discussed last time, a bit shitty when you are the only caretaker, having to stay up and lack of sleep, and it's just never ending and whatnot. So yeah.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
Didn't she have a new husband?
No. She has a boyfriend basically
Oh,
at this time.
okay.
Yeah.
But
And we'll get into
okay.
that too. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So on Monday, December 12th, so 2 days after she visited her parents, Sini had made a call to her mom again, and she complained of sleeping difficulties and of being super, super tired, just exhausted. She also said that she was going to try to get her family a rental apartment in Espoo, which is also down south, probably a bit closer to her family, which is nice. It's basically to the west of Helsinki proper, and she doubted she would get the place because it was basically the equivalent of kind of a rent-controlled property. So she was fearing that she maybe had too much wealth, because it's kind of rare in Finland to have these type of places, like where you're, these rental places where you make too much money to move into. It's kind of, you have like a cap on how much wealth you can have. So I'm sure that since she had a house still, she wasn't qualifying, even though she didn't really have that much money at hand. She had kids to take care of, but she just wasn't able to qualify for this place because she just had too much like quote unquote wealth, even though she didn't really have much in the bank, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's probably the case how it works.
Yeah.
To my understanding too.
Yeah. I mean, there was one place that I moved into in Multisilta that was kind of one of these rent controlled. They wanted to give places to people who didn't have a bunch of like rental properties and income and stuff like that. Like if you had a house, like maybe go somewhere else with that. You can, it wasn't necessarily like for quote unquote poor people, but just
Mhm.
trying to like give decent places to live for people who, they don't have 5 houses all throughout Finland and they're renting them out and then they're living super cheaply, that's just kind of unfair. Like, or maybe it's, I don't know. Well, we can get into the
Yeah, I think
politics
the
of
point is
economics,
like
but
if
yeah.
you
Socialism.
yeah, I mean, if you own a
Yeah.
house, the logic is that okay, you have quite a lot of wealth. You can sell your
Yes.
house and buy a new one. But if you don't
Yes.
have enough money to buy a house, then yeah, it's a different story. And even
Yeah.
then, I think many of because these rent controlled places are usually owned by the city in Finland. So the municipality is providing them, and they also often have like a maximum income you can have. It's more like, okay,
Yeah.
if you have enough income, just go to the free market of
Yeah.
rented apartments.
But then it was
Yeah.
also a bit kind of questionable because, like, I'm just wondering if this is a bit of an oversight, because I just was questioning this even like in the translation when I was reading the book, because of course I was reading this in Finnish, and I was like, I had to go over it multiple times because this is kind of was like a weirdly worded thing in the book that I kind of had to like read between the lines, like, yeah, she didn't get it because and I was just like, how did this happen? Because she's getting divorced, she has bills, she has medical bills, she has all of this stuff. Like, it's like negative amount of wealth. She has like a certain amount of money that is going out. And yes, she has a house, but you have to look at how much the mortgage is, you have to look at how much the utilities are, how much the cost for the kids. And I'm just like, how do
It doesn't
they?
work like that. I think like
Yeah.
basically if you own a house, that's it. they won't
Yeah, which
provide.
is bullshit in my mind.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this could have easily also lessened the burden on Sini, for instance, and that's the part that
Yeah.
kind of got me a bit also like
There's
I
lots of
just
these parts in the system that kind of,
yeah,
fail in this type
yes,
of
yes, yes.
situations.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's like what also got me really frustrated with this case because it's just kind of failures throughout this whole. There's all these places where there could have easily been someone who's like, hey, you need a break, like we're gonna give you a break, and then it could have easily solved this whole fucking issue, and then you end up with this fucking tragedy. So just and this was just one of them that I had to take a pause on, and I'm like, there needs to be something that is like done a bit better than this, and I just it was really really getting to me anyway.
Yeah, it's just a lot of these small things kind of adding up to cause a disaster in the end. Because, like, of
Yes.
course, this rule about the apartment that you can't already own another house and still rent this generally makes sense. I think, like, probably
Yeah.
in 99% of the cases, it's a good rule to have, but it doesn't
Yeah.
cover every situation.
And
So I
that's
don't
where
think that's a
yeah.
problem that we have that kind of system, but rather that there should have been some person to help her,
Yes.
like
Yeah, yeah.
to kind
Exactly.
of
And
guide
that's
what. Okay, this is not the right place where you get support. It's not the city apartments. You have to go here or apply
Yeah.
yes.
this or some like other support
Yes.
system. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I just I wanted to bring that up because I feel like also in Finland, I don't know, going through the system myself, not like this particular like housing system, but just immigration system. I just wish that some people would be able to take away the automation of applications just a little bit and just be like, hey, this doesn't fit inside neatly into this box. Can I just, like use my brain to think about this and then solve it that way instead of being like, no, that's not how we usually do it. Well, this case isn't normal, so can you please think for yourself instead of trying to fit it into a box that it doesn't fit in. So just I have a whole thing about that. So anybody struggling with immigration shit in Finland or in any EU country, I feel ya, I hear ya. And dear God, like, it's shit. So yeah. Anyway, moving on. So yes, she was troubled that she wouldn't get this apartment, and basically in the same phone call they had kind of talked together, the mother and Sini, about Christmas time and whether it would be easier for Sini's parents to come spend Christmas Eve at her place in Karkkila, or whether Sini and the kids would be headed to their place in Helsinki. But no definitive plan was reached in the call. And they said they would like maybe come to a conclusion, like let's play by ear closer to Christmas Eve, basically. Because I mean, it was 12 days. So this call was on December 12th. So it would be 12 days before Christmas Eve at this point. So the next day, Tuesday, Sini had called back and said that indeed the apartment in Espoo was out of the question and that they didn't fulfill the requirements to rent it. So basically, they had too much wealth. And then she also complained to her mother about her ex and the ex mother in law, who were really putting pressure on Sini to sell the house and just to move on with the kids into a different area and just, take the money and go, basically. She said that Juha was like surveying her constantly, kind of like pestering her as well. And the mother tried to, comfort her daughter and tell her the usual, everything will work out in the end, it's something you want to hear when you're possibly depressed, like everything works out, everything will be fine, right? I mean, yes, the mother had, good intentions at heart, but it's like, yes, everything will work out. It's kind of hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're in pitch blackness, right? So
And it's
Also, if you have,
just kind of a
yeah,
sorry, it's just I just wanted to say that it's also like just kind of a superficial comment. It's
yes, yes,
yeah. I
yeah,
feel in this
exactly.
situation there should have been again, also not blaming anyone, but I mean it would
Yes,
be
yeah,
nicer if I was in the situation to get some concrete, like, okay,
yes,
now calm down, let's do it like this. But of course,
yes,
then again, if you're depressed and you're not you're just too tired to make concretion out of plans. In a way, what her ex-husband and the ex-mother-in-law are saying makes sense. If you don't have money, it probably would be best to sell it. But if there's just so much, it's quite a big job to sell a house.
Yes, exactly. And in Karkkila, and you have multiple animals that you also need to possibly rehome as well. And yeah, so I mean, to all the people out there who are the loved ones of depressed people, like sometimes you just need to make the plans for them and like literally set out, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to hold your hand while we do it. Like while we find you a place, we're going to apply for 10 different apartments. We're going to do this. We're going to set a like, a limit, and this is what we're going to do. And that kind of helps things, because if you have someone who is not really wanting, has no will to do anything, it's very difficult, I think, at least for me personally. I don't know, trying to
I
find a
think it's
therapist.
probably true in general. Yeah.
Sini swore that Juha would, once again, the final kind of the final threat, that Sini swore that Juha, the ex, would not end up with the children. And she said this to her mother, and she also said that soon her and the kids would be going to where Jukka was. And then everybody, you know, would know about them. And Sini was like, yeah, so we're going to go where Jukka's at, and everybody would know about us, basically. So in Finnish, I don't know, like, it sounds better in Finnish in my mind, so I wrote it down. So, kohta hän ja lapset lähtisivät Jukan luo. Sitten kaikki kulisivat heistä. So is what basically she had said to her mother. And after this declaration, Sini ended the phone call. Yeah. So any thoughts on Sini's?
That's a little bit concerning.
Yes.
Yeah. What would you do if you were the parents in this case?
I would I don't know, I would maybe call emergency number and start driving to the house immediately.
Exactly.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Like right away. That's very concerning.
Yeah. Because I just feel like I understood immediately what she meant by going to Jukka's place, like Jukan luo, like as like
Or because
this
I
is
don't know
this.
what the context of their conversation was. Like, could
Yeah.
she have understood it in a different way, that they're going to the cemetery or something to be?
I don't
I don't
think
know.
so.
But then
But that's
sitten kaikki
yeah.
kulisivat heistä, like
Mm.
everybody would know about them. Like I don't. It seems a bit. And then ending it, like, yeah, we're going to go to the cemetery is a bit different than we're going to go to
Yeah.
like Jukka's place. And
Mhm.
just for a recap, to Jukka's the child that died in the previous fire. So just if anybody was still
But
not with us, yeah.
the only thing is here is the time, because this is an indirect quote that you from the book, so we don't know the exact wording she used. So it might sound something like, this is something I'm thinking, not like I'm going to do it now. So of course, depending on that, it's not maybe something that I would act on immediately, but more like, okay, she's just threatening with suicide and killing the kids. Okay, I have to calm down and think what would be the best way to, like, maybe it didn't sound that she's going to do it like soon,
Now.
can mean something like in the near future or next month or something.
Yeah. I don't know, like if I was personally, if this was like my child, I would probably go and stay at their place in Karkkila. I would immediately drive, and even if it was like nothing, still, like, better safe than sorry. And once again, I'm not blaming the parents for this at all, but it's just. And I mean, there are people who are quote unquote dramatic or something like that, where they're always
Exactly.
talking about suicide and suicidal ideation and whatnot. But it just seems like, yeah, there's more stuff after this that kind of like, okay, maybe I would have gone, like, like it just seems like it was just mounting the amount of importance and the importance to go and check on their daughter. But
Yeah, like Yeah, it does sound like she shouldn't be left unsupervised.
Yeah, and I would also maybe have called the social services. I know, like, even if I was the grandparent or something of this person, it's like, hey, the kids can come stay with us if you want to, even just
Mhm.
they can come stay with us if you want to get some sleep, if you're really exhausted or something like that. Yeah, there's just so
But
many
yeah,
things that could have been done, and we obviously don't know the whole situation, and we're just looking from the outside in,
yeah,
but we can only speculate, and that's the issue with this, of course. But yeah, it's just
and we
like I
have
said in the last. Yeah,
we have no information about the parents, like what is their life like, how is their
yeah,
health, and so on. So
yeah,
it's very hard to
yes,
imagine what you could have done and could have not done.
yeah, exactly, yeah. So now, Sini's mom, after the call, had started to get a bad feeling and wondered what her daughter truly meant by going to Jukka's place. Both the mother and father tried to call multiple times during the evening, but there was no answer from Sini. So I would have maybe at this point, like, I'm starting to get a bit frantic, maybe, yeah. And
Also, Harry was like, I'm pretty sure he probably had a phone, or it's not like he had his own personal phone. So I was just wondering if they could have tried to contact their grandson.
that's a good point too. Yeah, they probably could have and should have. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so yeah, so basically they tried to call multiple times. In the end, they decided to call her partner. So enter partner, Kolle.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And like I said, this might not be the person's name because the name might have been changed, etc. But the parents hadn't really known Kolle that well, just that Sini and Kolle were like talking about getting engaged and whatnot, and like things were, getting pretty serious, etc. And after receiving the phone call, Kolle luckily took the situation pretty seriously, and he said he would try to get to the bottom of the situation. And, like things were going well, like for Kalle and her, like from Kalle's viewpoint, the relationship was solid. And just a bit of background on the relationship, the couple was engaged as of May 2005. So this is now December that we're, currently in, and they were engaged back in May of 2005. But of course, during the relationship, there had been, some breaks. And these breaks, in Kalle's opinion, were due to the pressures from Sini's ex-husband and like family pressure and stuff like that. But as of October 2005, they had put their engagement rings back on their fingers and hadn't taken them off since. So basically, things were looking good since, like, pretty solid since October. And Kalle had been, a supportive element in the relationship and tried to help Sini in her everyday life. And especially after getting engaged, like making a commitment to her and like taking the kids to the doctor and doing grocery shopping and this type of stuff. So basically, the things that she needed help with that even her ex wasn't, doing in particular. Um, so after the phone call with Sini's parents, Kalle was like pretty worried about Sini. And he didn't really let on the fact that he was super worried to her parents. Like he didn't tell in the phone call like, "Oh shit, yeah, I'm super super worried about her now that you're literally calling me about this." Because like the last time he had contacted Sini was the previous day, so Monday the 12th of December, and the same day this was also the same day that Sini and her mother had like discussed some Christmas plans. So it was before this issue of her hanging up and saying she was going to go to Yuka's place, um but during their phone call on the previous day, Kalle and Sini had talked about normal things like this and that, niitä näitä, and so Kalle like basically immediately tried to call Sini after getting off the phone with her parents, but the phone went straight to voicemail, in which he left a message stating his worry, and only a moment later he got a reply from Sini. So I like guessed this. I wasn't really sure whether it was a text message, but I mean 2005. Yeah, there were text messages, but yeah. But basically he got a message from Sini and said that everything was fine and her kids and her were headed to bed. And just out of curiosity, he glanced at the clock and it was 6:50 in the evening when she had replied to him, which is seeming a bit early, I would think. Like even in December, like okay, the sun sets at what, like 4 o'clock or something in in Finland. Okay, maybe not that early, but pretty close. And
No, probably
yeah,
that early, maybe even earlier.
okay, yeah. But oh yeah, it's in December. I'm just thinking about now in November. But okay, but yeah, so it was about 6:50 that
Which
the
is not weird for like if you have a baby or how
Mm,
old the Junnu was, 1 year old.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
go to sleep around 7. Why not? Yeah,
Hmm.
but maybe for the older kids a bit early.
Yeah, yeah. But soon Sini did call back, and which is good. And then she said that basically she hadn't been able to properly sleep for 5 weeks by her estimation. And due to Junnu's hospital stay, basically kind of messed up Junnu's sleeping schedule and by default her sleeping schedule. So she just really hadn't been sleeping at all for 5 weeks, which is already disastrous. Yeah, given no other stressors in your life, I would assume. I am not a mother, but I would assume that that would be complete hell. Yeah. So she also stated that she was increasingly stressed about the ex situation once again and moving the houses. And as Kalle was a good dude and good partner, he suggested that he could come to Karkkila to stay the night with her and the kids, and then she could sleep while he watched the kids. And, this sounded like a pretty good, like, actionable thing. Like, I was, like, clapping for Kalle while I was reading the book. Like, go, dude. But sadly, Sini turned down the suggestion and said that there was no reason for him to come to Karkkila because she was such a light sleeper that even if Kalle was there to watch the kids, she would have to still wake up. Yeah. So
Yeah, I guess if it has continued 5 weeks, it starts to get this kind of. You hear this a lot with mothers who have babies who wake a lot in the
mm,
night. That you kind of your brain starts to work, so you wake up anyway
mm,
if it continues long enough. So
yeah, I'm sure. And it's also like, yeah, there's probably many things that are playing into this too. Like,
well, yeah.
yeah, she's probably going a bit crazy, quote unquote, like with lack of sleep and like, well, no one's going to be able to quiet him. If I can't, his mother can't quiet him. Who knows like what she's going on in her mind. But definitely, rational thinking does, go down the less sleep you get. Like that's just a proven fact. So good for Kalle. That's all I have to say. Thank you for suggesting that. Like go you. But yeah. So at the end of the phone call, Kalle asked Sini not to do anything foolish or bad to herself, and which is also a bit weird in my mind. And Kalle's mind had also gone to the message he received from Sini a while ago about her saying that she was going to go to the same place that Jukka was. And recently, Sini hadn't said anything serious like that, but still, Kalle was very worried. And at the end of the phone call, Sini promised not to do anything funny and that she would call the following day. So once again, this Yukon Luo, Yuka's place is also coming up again. And I just wish that, like, I don't know if the parents also said, like, yeah, Sini's talking about going to Yuka's place or not. But that just like phrase is now everybody's kind of heard it.
Mm.
At
Yeah.
least the people closest to her, which is like the most disconcerting thing in my mind. I know you could just still say it. It's like, okay, words of a depressed person, but if you haven't slept in 5 weeks, I'm just like, I'm the type of person where like, I'm just gonna go against what they want because I'm just, well, fuck what you want. I'm gonna take care of the kids. I'm still staying at least just because whatever, you know? But I know it's difficult to read the situation while you're in the situation, but
Yeah, so by that time she had been suicidal for at least some weeks.
yeah, I think so. I mean, like it said like yeah, hadn't recently said anything serious like this, so I don't know what recent is.
Mhm.
I mean, they'd been engaged since May. I don't think they'd been really like what the breakup between her and Yuha were in 2004-ish, closing on 5. So then if you think that Kalle and her maybe, I don't know, I'm just guesstimating here, but like maybe a year knew each other. Yeah, so maybe knew each other for a year or something like that. So within that time, there were some comments already. And just to like, I'm going to cover this later too, but Yuha, for instance, had never heard these comments from Sini before. And he states that he'd never heard these things and didn't know that she was feeling this way or suicidal. So it's just like the people that she felt closest to, maybe.
Mhm.
Didn't really feel like not being vulnerable around her ex, for instance, because they would take the children away, but maybe vulnerable around the people who she knew she could trust who wouldn't necessarily jump straight to child services or something like that. So, but yeah, we'll get into that a bit later. Okay, so the next day, Wednesday, the 14th of December, 2005. So the day started off like any other weekday, and in steps Harry into this tragedy. Harry was the first to wake up at 8 a.m. and after eating his breakfast, he went to the barn to take care of the animals. And after this, he went inside to get ready for the school day. And he noticed that the other family members were still not awake. So the previous night, you know, Harry recalled that he went out the front door to take some pictures on his camera. And his mother scolded him for making noise. And she was lately, he said, like Harry recalled that the mother was a ball of nerves and quite short with him, and she said that she couldn't handle it if Junnu awoke again. And this was just because she had put both Junnu and Jasmin to bed. So even Harry was, noticing his mother was, acting a bit shorter than normal towards him. So soon Harry threw on his backpack and, headed to school on his moped because he had a moped. And the school day was normal to start with, but in the afternoon, the routine was a bit different on this particular day because the whole like economy class had a field trip to the Fotzer candy factory in Vantaa. At the same time, at 12:25, a Karkkila taxi driver noticed something. In the middle of a field stood a single-family home engulfed in dark smoke. So the news of the fire spread quickly, and dare I say, okay, pun intended, like wildfire. And by about 12:30 or 12:30, even Harry knew about it. So mind you, this taxi driver saw something at 12:25, and by 12:30, Harry had heard about a fire in Karkkila.
And this is like pre-TikTok world.
Yes.
I
Well,
mean,
well
that's
before
pretty
TikTok
fast.
even
Yeah.
even pre Facebook, right? I mean, this is like MySpace era.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, apparently one of Harry's friends' dad had called his son. So, like basically one of Harry's classmates' dad, who also lived in Karkkila, I guess, called his son and whatever. That's kind of how the connection was made. So that's how it could travel so quickly by phone. And basically the dad had said to the son or the classmate of Harri that there was an ambulance and fire trucks on the scene in Karkkila. And I don't know if he said like at Harri's place or whatnot, but yeah. So frantically, I would assume, Harri tried to call his mom, but there was no answer on the phone. And then he called his grandparents. And they also said that they could not get a hold of Sini at this time. And Harri tried to call again and again, but there was no information available. And just like he couldn't get a hold of anybody to give him more information, basically. Which is like horrible. You're trapped at a fucking candy factory, a little bit away from your home. And you have a sinking feeling in your stomach that your mother, your siblings, you don't know how they are. Your house is probably on fire. You think it's your house because or maybe you don't think it's your house because hell, what are the chances of 2 fires within like 2 years, right? Who knows? After a while, the buses at the Fatser candy factory were headed back to the school in Karkkila. And as the bus arrived to the school, Harri could see the principal and the school curator approach the bus, and he instantly knew that they were there to collect him. Like he had the feeling that, yep, they're there for me. And he was right about this, and they, walked him back to the principal's office. They sat him down, and they told Harri that his whole family had perished in a house fire. So, any thoughts on this, or shall I continue? I have about another page
I mean,
and
lots
a
of
half.
lots of thoughts, but like,
Yeah.
do you want to finish first?
Yeah, maybe I'll finish. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, during the technical investigation of the fire, it became clear that it was a crime, obviously. All the victims were in the same room. The children were found in bed, and the mother was on the floor. There was also evidence of wounds from a kitchen knife, and indeed a black-handled kitchen knife was found in the kitchen sink with blood stains on it. So this insinuates that Harri's mom stabbed or killed the children with a knife first, brought it down to the kitchen, and then the investigation revealed that most likely the fire was started in the kitchen, in the cupboard next to the fridge, and that it makes the most sense that Sini was the fire starter in this case. Sini's cause of death was determined to be suicide, and the children's cause of death was murder. The autopsy found drugs in both of the children's systems, and they had been drugged before she used the knife on them.
That's interesting.
Yes. But Sini herself had died in the fire. So I guess from smoke inhalation or whatever. So basically, after this incident, in interviews, Sini's mother stated that Sini's rash decision was most likely made from severe exhaustion, that Junnu required too much care for her to be able to give. She even moved, apparently she even had, maybe done some kind of shady thing about the Child Protective Services to kind of, get them off of her back, by changing their address or something like that. By, trying to register at a different address, so then it would take them a while to catch up, or it wasn't very clear in the book about this, but she knew that maybe the child services was kind of closing in on her, possibly at this point.
Yeah.
And Sini felt basically completely alone and burnt out, and Juha, the father of the younger children, had never really heard Sini complain about any of this or suggest suicide. And to his mind, he thought that Sini would never do anything to harm the children. So he thought this was complete, nonsense. So go back to the first fire, back in 2003. After the second one, there was speculation that the fire was not an accident, the first fire. So I kind of alluded to this in the first episode, that is it an accident? Like, we still don't know whether it's an accident. Like, I mean, even like Juha, the ex, was like, yeah, it was totally like a electricity short, you know, in the kuivauskaappi or the drying cupboard and stuff like that. Like, it definitely wasn't started. But like, now you gotta wonder, 2 fires. Like, yes, the second fire easily could have been started because like maybe she got the idea from the first fire,
Yeah,
or
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
but then it goes back to the point of like the poisoned or like the medicated juice that her and Jasmin drank as well. Like, why in this second fire did the children both have medicine in their system now for sleeping and whatnot? So that also kind of,
But it could be that the first fire was really an accident and it was the trigger for this whole like downward spiral after that.
yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. Yeah. But yeah, the only person who knows is dead. So
Yeah.
guess we won't ever know.
Yeah.
So after the poisoning of Jasmin and Sini in December of 2004, like even Juha, he's like, could seem suspicious now, like thinking about it now that she actually, you know, did this in the end. Like, it seems a bit weird. But Juha still thought that all of this was a bit baseless and that Sini didn't cause the first fire. So like he thinks that like, no, absolutely not. This was totally an accident on the first fire's case. And but he himself even questioned the poisoning act in 2004. So
I mean, sure, because like how else? I still don't understand why they didn't even investigate it any further.
yeah,
Yeah, the
exactly. I mean,
poison
how
case is the
like
most weird part, in my opinion.
Hmm.
yeah, agreed. Yeah. So also during the investigation, Juha like interviews and stuff, like Juha stated that life was difficult for Sini, so he contested that like, yeah, shit was difficult for Sini in Karkkila. She had to rely on others to help, like she didn't have a driver's license and whatnot. She lived in the country, so of course it's kind of like a necessity to like, or maybe she didn't have a driver's license, but she just didn't drive. So she kind of even relied on Harri, her son, to get like groceries and stuff like that. And he maintained that the lives of children in Sini were good from his perspective, of course. And the house was always clean, the children were always fed and clean. And yeah, I mean, by his
Partly the
perspective,
reason
everything
why
was
she
good.
was exhausted.
Huh?
Partly the reason why she was so exhausted.
Yeah, probably. Like, and I feel like, okay, so is that your only basis for saying that a child has a good life is because they're clean and fed? There's so many other aspects that goes into like a happy life that I'm just like, what the fuck? Yeah, he's very observant. That's all I can say. Super observant. Yeah. But then Juha and Harri, they never really had a close relationship. Even after Sini's like final act of murdering her and her children,
Well,
Juha
I mean, they
never
are not
connected.
related.
Yeah, but the thing is, like,
Yeah.
he was still around for, like, even if you're like 9 or 10 years old, like, that's young enough, I think, to, like, Harri even said that he viewed Juha as his father because
Yeah.
his other father had died. So he viewed him as his father, but Juha didn't, I think, reciprocate the feelings as far as I understood, like, in
Okay, but
what
this
Harri
was
had
kind
said.
of new fact that his father had died, which means that or does it mean that Sini had previously lost her partner?
Possibly, like, I think there was like a small blurb about Harry's dad dying in an accident, but I didn't really put that in here, and I didn't really question whether it was during the after the fire or before the fire when Harry was a kid. Like, I can find it. Like, if you want me to pause, I can try to find it in the
No,
book.
I
But
don't think it's necessary. I just meant that, well, anyway, whether it
yeah,
was Sini's partner being or ex-partner, anyway, that's one
mm,
extra loss that she has experienced in
yeah.
her life
But
to
from
give
what I
more
understood, it was
context to
like,
her depression and stuff.
yeah, but I think it was like from a different like Harry's mom and the dad like already had separated and then died. That's how I understood
Okay,
it from
yeah,
the book.
yeah.
So it wasn't like an active relationship. I mean, yes, you can still grieve an ex dying, of course, but I don't think it was that close of a relationship from what I understood. So yeah, Juha never really connected with Harry even after this last fire, and basically decided to like grieve alone and not really, not with Harry. So also during an interview, Kalle and like Kalle and Sini's relationship kind of had like two different viewpoints, if you say. Like from Juha's point of view, Kalle thought that Sini and him were in a relationship, and Kalle or Juha thought that Kalle thought, dear God, that the relationship was way more serious, basically, than it actually was. And then Juha contested that Sini just viewed Kalle as more of a friend and driver, more than a life partner. And Kalle states that Juha was counter to that, however, Kalle states that Juha was a major cause of Sini's final act, and that even after Jukka's death, and this is going back to the point that I made earlier, that Juha had even bought an expensive car, even though there were more pressing matters the money could have been used for and whatnot. So whether this is or isn't, like, I feel like there was just kind of like this fighting between the two guys, you know, like, yeah, you weren't really serious. Yeah, you were serious. Like, it just seemed
They
like a
were
bit of a,
engaged, so that
yeah,
sounds
exactly.
pretty serious.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So I'm like kind of taking Kalle's side with this, not just because Juha's the ex or whatever, but just you're engaged. The parents call Kalle, not Juha. Like I feel like there is some type of seriousness to this relationship. So obviously some falseness to whatever Juha is saying at this point.
And I mean, what does he know? Like, if he
Yeah.
has talked with Sini, like, oh, what's up with Kalle? And Sini's like, whatever, he's just a boyfriend. Who, like, why
Yeah,
would she
exactly.
describe their relationship in
Yeah.
detail to her ex?
Yes. A guy who's obviously pressuring her into selling a house that she doesn't want to sell and basically causing to her stress. I just feel like it's a bit, I don't really take it too seriously.
I mean,
whatever.
I just don't think that his opinion matters.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
here
No.
at all.
Actually, it'd
about
probably be
their
like counter to whatever he says. So it's like exact opposite maybe of what he says.
But I think
Anyway.
it's interesting to hear that he did never hear her, talking suicidal thoughts. It might be that she didn't have them previously, or that she didn't feel like sharing those thoughts with him. If
Yes,
they
exactly.
had issues already for a while.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Who knows?
Like we can speculate a bit more later.
Oh, this was not
So-
at the end yet.
Nope, still going.
Sorry, go on.
Just a little bit, like a couple paragraphs. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, even Juhad's, blah 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 blah, like expensive car when Jukka died, etc. Questionable money spending, whatever. And then Kalle even questioned, and once again, Kalle, not even Juha questioned, but Kalle questions the juice incident and states that, like, okay, maybe this is also a bit false, but he states that Juha could have maybe had something to do with it, which, maybe not, who knows, but that's just an interesting, like, another little curveball thrown in there a bit, I think, so. Yeah, I don't think there's any credence to this, but it's interesting to say it at the very least. But yeah. But I mean, both men at least think that Sini wouldn't have poisoned the children. Like, if you think about that Kalle thinks
Which
that
is
Juha did
weird.
it.
She just
Yeah.
killed her two children. Why wouldn't she
Yes.
have done that? That's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That's like the quote unquote nicer way to kill your children. Like, I'm not condoning
Yeah.
any children murders, but like stabbing,
Or
slashing,
yeah.
and then or
She
fire.
drugged them too.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I would actually, I really would have wanted to know. Fuck, we're already into speculation, but I just wanted to say this. I wonder if the same medication or quote unquote poison was used in the bodies of the children for the final act as they were in the previous poisoning. But of course, you probably don't know
Yes.
that because it wasn't really investigated. So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Because I was
Yeah.
just going to suggest that maybe she was testing it back then,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
much you take for what kind of effect.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Agreed. The investigators also heard from Harry, and yeah, basically this is like he's the survivor of this whole family, and it's just I have the most sympathy for him. Like there's a whole excerpt on like what he did after this and whatnot, but I didn't necessarily include any or like all of that just to be a bit short because like I wanted to go through like the case of Sini and whatnot, and that's like the more like I just wanted to go to the preventative measures that one could probably take, or like, hey, if you see something like this in your life, then maybe you should say something, kind of thing. But I mean, it is important, of course, to bring up Harry's case and stuff. So Harry thought that there was just not like one major cause of why his mother did what she did, but many small things that led up to the final deed. He remembered his mother saying that Juha was pressuring her. So from basically the two men in her life that, were the most important, Kalle and Juha, Kalle and Harry, that Juha was obviously causing some extreme amount of stress towards Sini. And Harry didn't know like what type of pressure, like what pressure the was taking shape. Like he didn't know in like what form this pressure was being delivered in. He just knew that there was amount of pressure that was coming from Juha towards his mother. And he also heard from his mother that social services were threatening to take the two youngest siblings away, which had caused her even more stress.
So this means she was a would you say customer of social services? Because
Yes.
that's something you will hear only after your case is already in there. Because
Yes.
that's something I kind of wanted to know, because in many cases you mentioned that she's kind of avoiding the social services, but this means
Yes.
that she's already in the social services as a customer family. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. As far as I understood, yes. And that's why she was trying to like kind of throw them off, like maybe slow the mail so she would get notices a bit later and whatnot. And yeah. Harry still doesn't know why his mother did this to his youngest siblings and not to him. He thought that maybe since he was 15 years old, he didn't require much care and that he kind of like, was self-sufficient. He had a different father than the younger kids, and that Sini didn't want the younger kids to go to live with Juha, and that was kind of like the main issue. So also going back to the child protective services, like of course they would take the youngest siblings away because, Harry still could have been taken away because he's under 18, but he doesn't require that much like quote unquote care as, a 1-year-old and a I think 5-year-old maybe at this point. So yeah, he just always felt like, yeah, why them and not me, kind of like, not that he wanted to join them, just that it kind of makes you think like, am I such a
But
separate child from
mm,
this that she doesn't, in her mind she's probably thinking that she's caring for the children, these younger siblings. So in this kind of fucked up way of caring, she kills them. And then does she not care about him, or I don't know. So
I think it's totally understandable that he's kind of questioning this, or that's all of those things are going through his mind. But all the reasons that you listed are, yeah, like reasonable. That he's not an adult, but 15. That's not
yeah,
really a small kid anymore. Different father, all that.
yeah,
So I think it kind of makes sense. So she
yeah,
probably intentionally waited until Harry left for school
Yes.
that morning.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
I also thought, as an additional reason, that she already had the experience of Harry being super helpful when there was the fire last time. So she
Yes.
might have thought that if Harry was there, and anyway, she couldn't, give him the poison as easily, as he's already a self-sufficient age. And she thought that if Harry was there, he might start, helping them. And then her plan
Yeah,
doesn't
I
work.
mean, he even said that, like, in the first fire, he had, stopped her from going into the fire back to save Jukka, because it surely would have meant that she would have died too. So in that regard, it kind of also fits too. Yeah. So in January 2006, Harry went to visit the site of the latest tragedy and the site of the first tragedy as well. Basically, just a tragic fucking scene. Yeah. He went inside the house and the outbuildings. And in the barn, immediately on the right-hand side as you enter through the door, there was a plastic posti box, or like a mail office, post office box. Yeah, post office box, like a plastic one. And there were some photos on top of the box that immediately got his attention. And he decided to take the box with him because he's like, oh, well, here's something that hasn't been burned. There's no smoke damage to this. Like, I'll just take this with me to investigate, right? And then later he decided to investigate the contents of the box, and there was a lot of photos he had never seen before. And they showed his mother's childhood. There were photos of him and his mother. And there was also his mother's handbag, which contained a wallet, an almanac, a phone, and 2 letters. One of which was addressed to Harry, and it was a farewell letter.
So the initial investigation ignored all this.
I guess so, since it was an outbuilding. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How?
I don't know. Yeah,
just
I
we
also
don't
thought
care.
the
We
same
just
thing.
check the fire place. That's it. Well, yeah.
Basically,
Okay,
yeah.
go on.
Yeah.
But there
Yeah.
was like murder and everything.
Yeah. So basically, it
Okay.
was like the mother basically had intended for him to find this box, or at least investigators to give to him, etc. Basically, just like, here's some memories of us and the family and whatnot that aren't going to be burned by the fire, and placed in an outbuilding, like in the barn, so he could definitely wouldn't be burned to the ground, And also in the letter, there was something that said, and I didn't write it down, but I just read it in some, I think it was like MTV Uutiset or like MTV News or something like that, or Iltalehti. And it was like his mother basically felt that Harry didn't love her. And that's also what she put in the letter, like that they were kind of, yeah, she questioned his love of her. And that's another reason why possibly that she didn't end up killing him, because he didn't need her, possibly. So I think just like in this weird kind of a mind state of a depressed person, like thinking that I'm more of a burden than I'm, useful or something. And she basically, thought her own son didn't love her anymore and whatnot.
I mean,
So
he was a teenager.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
of
But
course, he might have had like an attitude or something towards his mother, which is completely normal.
But he was also very like caring. I forget the word they use, but like a very caring child. Like he, helped. He was very like doting upon his siblings and stuff, and he was like kind
Yeah.
of a bit of a different teenager. Like, I mean, I never went through like an angsty phase, and I don't think maybe Harry didn't either go through this type of like I hate my parents kind of thing. And it just seemed like he was like a very caring and sensitive kind of guy and whatnot. And yeah. So last thing, like last 2 sentences. And if you're wondering, how Harry's life is. He's pretty good. Like, he's married now, and he had some troubles, of course. Like, after all of this, he was like in a social welfare house or something like that because he was underaged and whatnot. And he was quite angry for a while there and had some difficulties, of course, because he was like, he just wanted to get out of Karkkila because of all the, small town and your mother killed your siblings and whatnot. So he eventually worked past it after some time. And so he's married now and has his own carbon neutral hair salon, which is kind of cool. And hell, maybe that'd be kind of interesting to go there. I don't know where it's at, maybe Helsinki or something. And one thing he has to say of his mother, because of my mother, I have no family, but it doesn't mean I can't remember anything good about her. So that just kind of shows like how decent of a person he is. Like, even though his mother did the most heinous act that a mother could do, there were still like good things about her and whatnot. And it just kind of makes you think like, if this decent person just had a bit of help, things could have been a bit different. Yeah, wouldn't have been a headline news situation. So yeah, that is the end of the Familicide in Karkkila part 2. And now we'll open it up for discussion.
Wow. I'm glad he is doing fine now, because this is like, oh my God, I don't know, the most horrible thing I could imagine happening to a person. And also like very like admirable that he can put this into perspective and like kind of say such a respectful thing about his mom, even after all of this.
Yeah, agreed.
I had some more comments, but I'll...
Difficult to, think what could have be done differently.
Yeah.
And I don't think the focus is really on the last days, like on the phone calls or stuff like that, because this was something coming. Like, even if they had gone to the place on that day and she wouldn't have been able to do anything, maybe she would have done it after a week. Like, I just mean that it should have been dealt as a whole to be able to prevent this, with all the she could have gotten help because I think she had serious mental health issues. Like,
yeah.
Not only
she should have been in a hospital.
Yeah, and like, and I guess the child services, they were trying to do their work, but it's also difficult and this is more of the whole organization problem. Why are parents afraid of child social services? Something is not going well.
It's a stigma,
like
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the fear of losing your kids. But like, why is that worse than killing your kids? It makes no sense if you try to think it with logical mind, not a mind that is overexhausted and depressed. And
yeah. And I mean, also, like, there were some points that like Harry had made in the articles and the book and whatnot, like some quotes from him that were basically saying that I wish there was some type of system where it kind of collected all of these data points, and then it would somehow, from what I understood, kind of like put someone on like a list or something, or like, hey, this is something bad is happening, to
like
kind
a
of like
high
use more
risk
data.
situation.
Yeah, something like that. And one of like this person who was basically like what is it? Anna Nikupetteri, this tutkijan tohtori, basically does some studies about familicides and stuff like that. And like, yeah, that's a good point, but it's quite difficult to actually, make these types of things like have all these different associations or groups or whatever talking and making points about these things. And yeah, it's like
And
different
it's
situations. It's
yeah, and
too difficult,
privacy
basically.
issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think to
Yeah.
have all of these data points, you would need like full surveillance over everyone, like
Yeah.
everything that they're doing, which is obviously
Yeah.
not what people want. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, like yeah. But
but
yeah,
sure,
like
like I
there's
could imagine a system like this being developed from those kind of data points that are available for them to kind
yeah.
of flag these more high risk like families or parents.
Yeah, and like it also says like in these situations it's very difficult to assess if like there's no information on like the family dynamic, and there's like just so much stuff. Like I mean, even in the name of the book, like kukaan ei kuule, like it's kind of like, while you're in the house, like, you can't hear or see what goes on inside the walls of the house. And yeah, there's like just so much more information that we're not privy to in order to help. And yeah, that's kind of, I think, one of the main issues behind this. Of course, there's like some people who are trying to help, but there's just no way unless, I mean, there's always going to be some mental health issues which you need to overcome, which is almost impossible to overcome, especially if you're not sleeping for 5 weeks. And yeah, there's points of time where things could have been solved, but at the same time, by whom and when? Like, looking back, they say, like, even Megadeth song, like hindsight or whatever is always 2020, but looking back is still a bit fuzzy. Like it's a bit, it's yeah, always hindsight is 2020 indeed.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's so multi-layered. Like, of course, social services would need more resources as well, because I'm pretty sure they're underfunded. People need to be more educated about like how to notice the small warning signs.
Yeah, and there's like should be more, I don't know, services for this kind of situations. I know that there are this, I think it's called ensikoti in Finnish. It's meant for parents with little babies for having, well, that kind of problems. For example, they can't sleep or they can't really take care of the kid. And that's something where the parent and the child goes, and it's no one's taking your child, but you might be able to rest there better and so on.
Yeah.
But I don't
mean,
know
yeah.
to what extent this kind of service is provided. Is it provided if you have already a bit bigger kids, etc., etc.? Also, the Junnu, he was being hospitalized once in a while, and like I don't know if that would have been a good point to send them all to some kind of this kind of home where you can rest and have help with your kids and for yourself. But yeah,
But then it comes back again to the stigma that these kind of things are just stigmatized. So a lot of people just they don't want to show that they need help.
Yeah. Just normalize help, especially with childcare, because like the old saying is, at least in English we have, it takes a village to raise a child. I mean, now we have more wealth and more, generally speaking, like there's more wealth, there's more stuff, and yeah, we have time off if you're a parent or something like that, but sometimes it's not enough if you're living in a different country, or maybe you don't have the family support that you would normally have, or it's just ask for help, and it shouldn't be a stigmatized thing in order to ask for help. But it is. And I think that's where it actually is the root of the issue, is that asking for help for yourself, or saying like, I can't handle this right now, can someone help me, is the root of the issue. And I think, I don't know, I haven't read all of the stories in this book that I've been reading, but I'm guessing that quite often it's going to be that case, indeed, that there's some people who just need help, who either need to have some psychiatric help and they don't know or don't want to or don't know how to even reach out for it, or help with their children or something. So, yeah.
One thing I still wanted to bring up now, going back to the whole murder part of the story,
Yeah.
that you said that they found that the children died from the like drug overdose or some kind of poison or medicine overdose, but she also stabbed them.
They wasn't sure whether they died of that. I think they couldn't tell the
Okay.
death, but they just had drugs in their system, and then there was also bodily damage from a knife that they
Hmm.
found in the sink. So I'm
That
guessing
was,
that,
yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. It's just because like the drugging would have been enough,
Yeah,
I
but
guess,
I
to
think she
kill
wanted
them.
to make sure, like, because it's also this thing like they can't survive without me, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so just
But there's also
do
this
it.
thing that stabbing is like how like personal it is and things like that. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, it just kind of shows the like frustration that she probably
Yeah.
had with piling up.
Yeah, and I would also like I really want to not really want to, but I just would be curious to see whether there was more bodily damage done to, for instance, Junnu,
Hmm.
or yeah, over Jasmin, for instance, because like of course, as sad as it to say, like he was the more recent cause of some of the strife that she was feeling, like
Hmm.
lack of sleep and whatnot. So maybe in my mind, it would make the most sense for her to take the most frustration out with stabbing or something on the youngest child. But I have no, like, obviously, I don't have the
Yeah.
crime scene photos or any of the coroner reports or anything like that. But yeah, indeed, with stabbing, I wonder if it was just one child or both of them or what.
Mhm. And then another thing about the drugging, and it's just like really just purely speculation, but
Mm.
just came to my mind that is that something that she could have possibly done sometimes, like giving whatever medicine it was it like sleeping pills or whatever to the kids? Because I think that was one of the main issues that Junnu had problems sleeping. And then there was this previous incident also. So could it be that in the previous like poisoning incident that was just kind of an accidental like overdose?
Yeah, because it's kind of interesting that like Junno in the first poisoning case, he wasn't actually affected because like Harry and Junno were the ones that stayed home while Jasmin and Sini went to the hospital
Ah,
because
yeah,
Sini
right. Okay.
and Jasmin were the ones that were most affected by it. So I
But
was
it
like also thinking, yeah, could it just been like too low of a dose, or was it a fuck up on Sini's part, or was it indeed like you said, like could it have been drugging for all of them to sleep or something. So, and I don't know what her prescriptions, like that would have also been very interesting to know whether she had prescriptions for sleeping pills. Cause like, I'm sure like if you're someone who's suffering from sleep, I think psychiatrists are easy to, put in some type of like, okay, maybe not easy, but here's
I
some
think
sleeping,
they are
here's some
pretty, or
sleeping
even
pills.
GPs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like from my experience, like, oh, you're depressed. Here's some, here's some antidepressants. Here's something to help you sleep a bit, to take off the, edge, not just, melatonin, but something a bit more, not like
Hmm.
sleeping pills, but just something a bit more extra. So,
Yeah.
but so I don't know whether, yeah, she
Yeah,
had
we could
that
go
or she had a prescription.
speculating the
Yeah,
whole medical system here because yeah, there's
yeah,
lots of problems in this. Not
mm,
enough resources there either, so it's easier to just give the pills like, oh, you're not sleeping. Let's not solve the problem of you not being
yeah,
able to sleep because of the kids, but give you sleep medication. Ta-da!
yes,
But yeah,
yes. I
yeah,
mean,
of
it's the
course we
same
don't
thing
know
in
if that's the
everywhere.
case here, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, at least the case is quite similar in the States and stuff too, over medication. So I
Mm,
think it's quite similar everywhere. But yeah,
yeah.
but I don't know. I think that's kind of about a 2 an hour and a half or something now at this point, so maybe we should
Yeah,
wrap it
yeah.
up if there's nothing else we want to say. But yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I promised you tears, but you guys didn't cry, so sorry. Maybe I'll try to find something a bit sadder next time.
Oh,
Oh, please do,
no,
please
this
do.
is as sad as it can get. But
Mm,
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for listening and being engaged in this case. And yeah, so I guess I will tell you how to find us on social media and stuff. So basically, you can send us an email with suggestions for cases, some feedback, as long as it's constructive, at translationmurderpodcast@gmail.com. And what should they not send us, Petra?
dick pics.
Yeah, don't send us dick pics. We haven't gotten any still. That's good. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Translation Murder Podcast. And yeah, you can follow us on Spotify, like, subscribe, add a, I don't know, comment to the questions that we ask on the bottom. Like, what do you think of this episode? Say great, good, or shit, or whatever you want. Just say something.
If you say shit, explain why.
Yeah, please do. Yes, constructive feedback is great. And I don't know, tell your friends about us, please. It helps. And so the next week, Victoria will be going next, and I'm guessing a case from Hungary.
A case from Hungary, and I'm actually like trying to decide between two, so maybe I'm not gonna give any hints right now, but go follow us on Instagram and keep checking the hints and on the last slides of the post, so you will see the hint for the next episode. But Hungarian case.
Great. Thanks for listening, guys.
Oh yeah.
Hei paralla.
Thank
Thanks.
you. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.